Okay. Hi, Vic. How you going?
I'm okay, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, really good. Thanks. Thanks for coming on.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm really, really honored to be on.
Oh, no problem. And congratulations on your recent last one standing performance at, was it God's Own Backyard Ultra? Is that what it was called?
Yeah, God's Own in Leeds. Yeah.
Yeah, that's unreal. So I guess I like to start off most of my podcasts just by asking my guests how did they, or when did they start running and how did they get into it?
Um, Gosh, I started properly running in 2016. I'd done a few Race for Life. I don't know if you have them in Australia. I'm guessing you do, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd done a few of them with my kids, like walking, not really running. Um, but yeah, I got properly into running in 2016. I guess I found myself in a position where I'd gone through a breakup and I had two very young children. And at the weekend, they were now going to dad. And I was just like lost, sort of like my individuality was lost. And as a person, I didn't know where I was going. And I got a puppy. And running seemed to be the next step after getting a puppy.
Yeah.
And that is kind of how I started running. And I had a bit of a health blip, which really kind of made me think about my fitness. And I started training for a half marathon, and it kind of all just went from there. And that was in 2016.
Yeah, awesome. So it didn't take you very long at all then till you dipped your toes in ultra running because I saw in 2017 you actually ran in four ultras. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I am kind of one of those people that I don't do middle ground.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to go from 0 to 6 billion really quickly. And like when I did train for my first half marathon, it was because I wanted to do a marathon. So it was kind of like, right, I'm going to do a half marathon in 2016. I did my first marathon in June 2017. And by October of that year, I ran the Offa's Dyke race, which when I was at the finish line and stopped my watch, I'd ran 200 miles. So it escalated pretty quickly.
Yeah. And do you remember what inspired you or what made you want to run those longer distances? Was it was it the mental challenge or the physical challenge or what was it?
Yeah, so I remember when I finished my first marathon, I'd chosen to do a road marathon. I didn't even know that people were running on anything other than the pavement. Who would do that? So I did a road marathon. I did like an iconic one. It was Manchester, and I remember I hated every single second of it. I crossed the finish line. I projectile vomited everywhere. And I was just like, this is not the moment of glory that I envisioned. And I went back to Run Club because I joined a local running club to kind of help get me in the whole running theme of things. And I remember saying to Win, I was like, do you know what, dude? I'm not going to be coming back to running club. This is it. I've just kind of come to say I'm not coming back. I hate running. And he was like, oh, you need to come out and run on the trails. And I was like, when I cannot run on the road, how on earth can I run on the trails and up mountains? And I think it was something like 4 weeks later, he had me entered into the hardest, said to be hardest trail marathon in Wales. And I absolutely loved it. I remember I doubled the time that it took me on the road. I had a beer and I ate a packet of crisps. And I got strapped up pretty well by the medics because I was not capable of running mountains at that point, even though I was trying to. And I remember finishing, and it was just like, oh my God, I love running. I love this. And the fact that I'd been out for almost 7 hours, I think it was, didn't phase me at all. I was like, I feel amazing. I could do this forever. And someone was like, oh, you need to try ultras. I was like, what are ultras? And yeah, that was it. There was no stopping me then.
Yeah. So have you ever um, gone back to the marathon or run on the road, like done a road marathon since, or it's just been ultras ever since?
Yeah, I think I did, my memory's really poor, but I did the Live Bird marathons, and that I was tempted by that because you do it on New Year's Eve and then New Year's Day back to
Yeah.
back, and that was
Yeah.
on the prom. Oh my goodness, that was horrific. I hated every second of that as well. And I still went back and did it the next day. But marathon is my least favorite distance. Like I do not like marathon distance. Um, so yeah, I think I have done a few marathons, but they're not something I look for.
Yeah, yeah, fair enough. One of the things that I guess you're well known for is your barefoot running. So, how did you get into running in bare feet?
Yeah, so I think that was in 2018, and I was doing the longer distances, and I did Chester 100. Um, and I met this dude on Chester 100 that pretty much changed my life, Mark. He challenged me while we were on that run to give up dairy for 2 weeks. And I was the kind of runner that was running with a block of cheddar cheese. That was my fuel. And he was like, you need to give up dairy because I was complaining of headache. And he says, and you need to do something about these shoes. And he was running around in sandals. And I was thinking, this guy is mental. Like this tree hugging hippie man with his sandals. I hope he doesn't run with me for long. And he did. I couldn't shift him. And he completely changed my life. But at the end of that run, it just so happened that my feet were in the worst state possible. I remember, like, I didn't want to take off my shoes, but obviously at the end of the run, the race director, and it was Jonathan on that particular event, took off my shoes for me. And I remember, like, the sort of little sigh of disgust that everyone let out when he took my shoes off, and my feet were just in such a state. And like my dad has always taught me that I only have one body and I have to respect it. And I remember looking at my feet thinking, I hope my dad doesn't see this. And I put my shoes in the bin. Like I went straight over to the bin. The shoes went in there like a really expensive pair of shoes. And I was like, I'm never wearing shoes again. Next day, puppy needed walking. And I was like, oh, I literally have no shoes. I can't wear high heels to the park to walk the puppy. So I just walked barefoot. And then I started looking into barefoot running. And Mark, who I'd met on the run, actually sent me out a pair of Luna sandals. And it kind of just escalated from there. Like I carried on with barefoot shoes and I carried on with actual barefoot running, no shoes. And that was it. Yeah, like today, I don't own a single pair of shoes in my house that aren't barefoot shoes.
Wow. Wow. And what would your advice be for people who are interested in trying barefoot running? Like, what would your advice be to those people?
Um, Leave your ego at the door because you're about to learn how to run again. So up to now, shoes have played a massive part in your movement, in your speed, and in your form. So imagine you only run up hills and you only run up hills with poles. So imagine you've never ever ran without the support of poles. So you wouldn't say you weren't a runner. You wouldn't say that the poles are doing all the work for you, but you'd have to acknowledge that the poles are playing this crucial part in supporting your movement. So imagine now all of a sudden you take those poles away. So you're still going to know how to run up that hill, but you're going to need to build on it. You're going to need to adapt your form. You're going to need to change your approach, maybe even your pace. And without those poles, your legs are going to have to do all the work, but they are going to become stronger for it. So those poles are in effect your shoes. When we take away those shoes, your feet are going to have to do all the work. You're going to have to adapt your form. You're going to have to listen to your body. Your feet are about to use muscles they've never used before. Like foot DOMs is a thing, believe me. And your feet are going to, the muscles and receptors, they're going to send messages to your brain that it's never going to have even had to think about or listen to before. Like this is a whole new thing that it's going to have to figure out. So your body is going to experience something extremely different. So you're going to have to leave all the running that you know at the door, and it's like starting from scratch. It doesn't come overnight, but if you do look into it, if you do venture into it like I did, it will rock your world 100%.
Yeah. How long did it take your feet and I guess your running to adjust to barefoot running?
So I said that I go from sort of 0 to 1 million really quickly.
Yeah.
I did what they recommend you do not do, and I ran and went barefoot and in barefoot shoes overnight. Like I had thrown my shoes away, so I kind of didn't have a choice. But I think it was just a couple of weeks before I was running 50k barefoot, and I was racing in barefoot shoes, and it worked for me. You know, I didn't get any issues from it. I just progressed, and the issues I had from shoes, conventional shoes, went. Um, but I would always advise that everyone's completely different. So just like when you first start running, you don't, well, you shouldn't go out and just run a marathon if you've never run before. You know, there's going to be results from that aren't kind to you.
Yeah.
So just build up. You know, think of it as starting to run again, not just form but distance wise, and listen to your body. Your body will tell you. You just have to listen to it.
Yeah. So one of the things that scares me about barefoot running is stepping on something sharp or something that hurts my foot. Have you ever like had any injuries like by stepping on something in bare feet?
Yeah, I've not had anything that stopped me from running, but yeah, I think the most painful thing I've pulled out of my feet is like, you know, those horrible little thorns. We get them loads on the trails here. Those
Yeah.
really like sharp pine needles, are they? Oh, they're vile.
Yeah.
Um, but you know, I've never done anything detrimental. I mean, if you stepped on a nail in shoes, they'd be in your trainers, you'd know. And I mean, how many times have you pulled a nail out of your trainers or even a piece of glass?
Mm.
Um, you learn to look before, you know, you're placing your feet, and there's a lot of stuff happening that you don't even realize is happening. Like your mind is thinking where your foot's going to go, and you're looking and you're glancing. um it your body just adapts and it works. Like it just does it. You know, there are like thousands of people around the world who never wear shoes, like tribes and all sorts of, you know, like places and countries that don't wear shoes.
Mm.
We live somewhere that wear shoes. That's our normal. So it's just about changing your normal.
Yeah. I've heard of something called grounding that's apparently good for you. And I guess, have you heard of that? Like where you take off your shoes,
Yeah,
your bare feet. Is it a little bit like that? It's not only good for your body, but it's good for your mind as well?
yeah, 100%. It's been scientifically proven, hasn't it, that it's really good for your mental health and your mindset and your body. So it like the ground takes away like negative charges that are in our body, leaving us with the positive charges. So yeah, it is pretty mega. Yeah, it is amazing for mental health. Like I use it for my mental health.
Yeah, yeah, cool. And have you ever been running in a backyard ultra and like maybe going through a bit of a low point and thought, oh, gee, I might run this next loop in bare feet to and see if that helps my mood?
I ran a loop at the Putney backyard ultra barefoot, and I remember starting out, and there was like some lads behind me, and I remember one going, "Oh God, she's not going to last, is she?" And I won that at one, and I remember thinking like, "Oh, I wonder where that guy is. I hope he knows that I've won this one now."
Yeah. Cool. So before we go too deep into the backyard ultra stuff, I saw that you've actually run in the tunnel, which is a race I'm really fascinated by, and you've run in it not only once, but you've run in it 3 times. So, what's that race like?
Um, that's like really horrible. Yeah, so the tunnel format is built to break you basically. It's called the hard stuff, and it is the hard stuff. What Mark does, the race director, is quite insane. Really, he has this really unique format to the race, and what it does is it takes away everything from us that as humans we thrive off. So human connection, that's not allowed in the race. You know, he told you at the beginning you shouldn't be running side by side, you shouldn't be talking, you're there to run. um he'll disqualify you if he sees runners supporting each other. You're not allowed to wear headphones, so there's your connectivity to music and energy and just your brain being alive. You're in the dark.
Yeah.
So in the day hours, the tunnel is lit, but it's not lit to the point where you are in a lit room. It's not like that. You are in a tunnel, and at night when the lights go off, you've got your head torch. And it is really disorientating when people are coming towards you with their head torch. Um, yeah, you're just out there alone. You're not allowed like crew support. Nobody's allowed to come and see you. Um, you've got to look after yourself, feed yourself, water yourself. You're allowed one box. That's it. Um, yeah, you're not allowed poles. No physical help. Nothing. You are out there alone. And when you're out there alone for such a long period of time, we're talking up to 55 hours without natural daylight, without human connection, all those little things that we take for granted, you are literally stripped raw in the most brutal way possible. If you've got demons, you're facing them in the tunnel. Every single doubt you've ever had about your ability as a runner or an individual, you're going to hear that in your brain over and over and over again in the tunnel. And the battle is with yourself, like physically and mentally. You are going to fight yourself in that tunnel, and you have to come out on top. You have to be stronger than every version of you that you have. And I think that's the hardest thing we face as runners in extreme events, is that inner battle. Like, you know, when we're at our weakest physically and mentally, we fight ourselves. And if you don't come out on top, then you don't finish the tunnel. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it sounds like it's absolute hell, but it also sounds like the type of race that I think a lot of people who enjoy backyard ultras would also really be interested in trying.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a horrible event, but this is said by the girl that's gone back 3 times.
Yeah.
So there's kind of like this addiction to the tunnel, this like want to be able to wrestle that inner your inner self and come out on top. And like whatever you achieve at the tunnel is 100% you. You don't get any help. You know, it is 100% you. And at the beginning, all the runners are excited, and that does not last for long, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe like 3, 4 hours, and then it's silence. After 12 hours, people maybe grunt here and there. Um, there's kind of in the I'm not gonna lie. There is not a happy place, but it's this weird, like, mental test that I am just really drawn to. Like, it is all in the head. You know, it's not about what your legs have got, it's about how strong your head can be.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah. And it sounds like I read an article about it, and it sounds like the hallucinations come on early and a lot more intense than they would otherwise.
Yeah, and I think that's down to two things. The darkness, like, you know, like when you kind of run through a night on an ultra, you are holding on for that sunrise, aren't you? You know, when that sunrise is, it's like a supercharged to your body, like you're a superhero again all of a sudden. When the sun comes up outside of the tunnel, there is nothing happening for you as a runner. Um, it's probably worse knowing that it's light out there and outside somewhere people are happy and you're just stuck in this tunnel.
Mm.
And just because you're in a tunnel doesn't mean you're protected. You know, you get wet, the rain comes through, like this weird wind suction comes through, and it's freezing cold in that tunnel. But there's also the complete and utter like dead zone that there is in the fact is there is nothing visually to engage you. There's nothing to look at. There's nothing to get from. There's nothing to focus. There is nothing to keep your brain alive.
Yeah.
And it's so those hallucinations and that like crazy sleep deprivation gets you so early on.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, why do I feel so rubbish? I've not even gone through a night. And they start it in the evening as well. So you're already tired from traveling all day. So yeah, there's there's no bonus in the tunnel. It's all just you start and it's all downhill from there.
Yeah. And don't they play really like annoying kind of music in there as well?
Yeah, so oddly enough, so it's been, I think, sort of like renovated. No, what's the word? How do you say it?
Revamped?
Revamped, we'll go with that.
Okay.
It's been revamped by the council, perhaps, who have looked after it, and they actually have speakers in there, and they play like what I can only describe as something you'd hear in a horror film at a really bad moment. It's like this violin music, and the first few hours is like, oh, this is all right, and then it's kind of like like you're being tortured. It's horrific. And you can actually find it on YouTube actually, because last time I did the tunnel and I was training, I decided to listen to this music when I did all my training for it, so that I'd become sort of like able to block it out. And that did help me. But also, I was very miserable on all my training runs
Yeah.
listening to this music.
So you've done it 3 times. What's the furthest you've got?
The furthest I've got is, I did write this down for you. 1 second. 54 laps, which is 108 miles, so just over halfway.
Wow, that's unreal. And how long did that take?
Oh, I do not know.
Okay, yeah, yeah. I can imagine it would be a pretty long time though. Like it would have been
So
well over.
you've got 55 hours to complete it. You have to be over halfway at
Yeah,
that time frame.
right.
So I'd met cut off. And then I remember I made my biggest mistake. I'd made cut off, I was super happy, and I went and sat and took an hour out.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It was like a reward to myself, and my whole body closed down, and I was like, oh, I made halfway, what an achievement. And this is the furthest I've come. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, I'm happy here, I'm happy to stop now. And that's exactly what happened. Like I didn't like do many more laps. I remember I think I texted my coach and said, yeah, I'm good now. He's like, go and do a few more laps. Just walk it out. It'll be fine. And I was like, nah, I'm done. So yeah, I've noticed that all the people that finish and complete the tunnel do not stop. They don't go in to like the little volunteer tent and sit there. You should not do that. You have to be all your time in that tunnel, and that is it. You commit to it.
Yeah, yeah. Just keep moving forward. Yeah. So I did notice on your the YouTube page that you've got back in 2018, well before you ran your first backyard ultra, you did actually do a run that was a little bit like a backyard ultra, where you ran for 50 k's, and every 5 k's you would stop and drink a beer.
That was an awful idea. So I remember being invited to that by Alex, who is quite famous for running round in sandals. He's actually competed in the tunnel as well.
Right.
And I was quite chuffed because he's a really cool dude, and I'd been invited, and I didn't really know many people in the running community. And so I took it very seriously. I was very serious, and I didn't realize that you don't take these things seriously. Everyone that went did not take it seriously. I'm not a beer drinker, and it was these horrible craft ale things. It was disgusting. And after my first one, I could feel the throw up already. But I was insistent I was going to complete. So I completed the full 50k, chugging every 5k. And it was disgusting, absolutely horrific. I would not recommend it. There's a video, I think, on my Instagram, and I look so hammered. Like I have no idea. My most vivid memory of that entire event was that night sleeping in my car with the door open. It was pouring with rain and freezing cold, but with the door open, with one of my feet firmly on the ground, trying to ground myself so I didn't feel sick. Yeah. It was horrific. Something I tried to not remember.
So Rasselbock last year in 2023, that was your first backyard ultra, is that right?
Yeah, it was. No, I was really like not a fan of backyard ultra formats. I couldn't get my head around it. Like I'd heard the vibe about it and I'd watched a few YouTube videos, but I could not understand why anyone would start a race and probably most definitely not finish it. Like it's just insane to me. Like I've had so many DNFs that emotionally I felt destroyed at, and I was like, well, why would I start knowing I'm probably going to get one? But then I co-own a active work company called We Won Bright, and every year we take a group of people and we try to do something with them, do a running event that they might not have done before, and sponsor the event and sort of help them and come together as a team. So like Gav, my business partner and best friend, he said, right, let's do it for this event because we know Eric and we wanted to support him. So that's kind of why I came to the Backyard Ultra, it wasn't out of, I really want to try this. I was quite against it, to be honest. I was like, what ridiculous race format. And yeah, I absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
I think it was 3 weeks before my A race of the year, which was the tunnel.
Yeah.
And my coach we had said I was going to try to get to 24 hours at the Backyard Ultra, which I didn't know if that was possible because I'd really always struggled to get 100 miles in 24 hours.
Mm.
So that was my goal. And then I was going to walk away and focus on my A race. And I went to 30 yards
Mm.
and I didn't want to stop. I had plenty more yards in me. But I knew it was time to stop because my A race was really solid in my head. But I loved it. I'm completely addicted.
Yeah, yeah. And so I guess in your first one, did you walk away? I mean, you obviously enjoyed it, but was there anything else that surprised you about the format?
Yeah, I was really shocked how hard it is to be timed out.
Right.
Like I still have never been timed out on the yard. I've always chosen to finish. And I think it is insane how hard it is to be timed out on the yard if you're honest to yourself. I see loads of people walk the yard out. This is my last one. I'm going to walk it out. I'm done.
Yeah.
Um, but when I see someone be timed out on the yard, it's the like I for me, I feel like it's the most amazing way to finish. Like they have given it their all, they left it all out there,
Yeah.
and I still haven't done that. I'm still missing that time out on the yard. That is still to come for me. Um, yeah, like that's the one thing that really shocked me with the format, how hard it has been for me and so many other people to actually be timed out on the yard.
Yeah. Yeah. And what did you like about it the most?
I guess because I'm not a speedy runner. I've never enjoyed speed. I've always been an endurance runner. So very often when I do an A to B race, I'm very consistent with my pace and I start slow and I finish slow, but because I'm consistent, I usually finish quite well. But very often I'll never see anyone.
Yeah.
So that journey is completely solo. So with the Backyard Ultra, everyone coming back, like I have felt like part of such an amazing community every single hour and speaking to different people and connecting with different people. Like for me, that has been the most amazing thing with the Backyard Ultra format.
Yeah. 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 It's what I love about it the most too, I think. Um, and when did you decide that you were going to do 12 backyard ultras in 12 months?
Yeah. I decided that I think it was after after I'd done my first one, I was quite obsessed with the idea of backyards. And that year I did two more, but I did one, they were like fun backyard ultras. I did one as a recovery run from a big race I'd done. Just because I was lucky enough to get a last minute entry and I was like, yeah, I'll come and do it. Like I'll recover my legs there.
Yeah.
And then I did another one. My mum was quite poorly, so I didn't want to stay there long. So I didn't stay there long. But I think it was after the recovery run, which was at Godzone, that I said to my coach, wouldn't it be cool to do 12 backyard ultras in 12 months? And in my head, I was thinking I could do one a month, and wouldn't that be amazing? And I was kind of expecting him to go, no, Vic, that's a stupid idea. Please stop with all these stupid ideas. But he just went, yeah, that'd be really cool. And that was it. Like that fire was just like fueled. But then later that year, my mum got really, really poorly and everything kind of got put in hold. And we didn't know she was poorly, but when we found out she was poorly, we were given 6 months. And so I said to my coach, the 12 and 12 is off. I'm staying home. I'm looking after my mum. That 6 months was actually only 6 weeks. So in January, me and my dad were sort of just lost and we started park running together. My dad's become a manic, obsessive park runner. He travels all around the world now.
Awesome. Yeah.
But I said to him, how about I do my 12 and 12? Like, can we pull this together really quickly? So we went out in January and we did kind of like a recce of a backyard ultra together. He had never crewed for me, so I didn't know if I emotionally was ready to run. But we did that, and we came away and we said, yeah, let's do it. So we pulled the 12 and 12 together, and that started in March.
Yeah, and that was at Rasselbock this year. Was that the first one of the 12?
Yeah, yeah, it was. And I had told my mum that I wanted to break the women's backyard ultra record, which at the time was 30, 36, I think, or 35.
Right.
So I had that in my head. That was my goal. So we were going to make March my A race, and then I was going to sort of crawl the rest, and I had no idea how it was going to pan out because it was a big ask to do 12 and 12. And I had in the planning realised you can't do one every month. There are months there are no backyard ultras, and then there are some months but they're all together. Like I've had 5 in a row with less than 2 weeks in between, and that's been quite a tough stint. So yeah, we were going to go all out on the first one and kind of just take the next ones as they came.
Yeah. I remember at Rasselbock this year, there was a really good race, and there were actually, you mentioned the female record. I think there were 3 females left of the last 5 runners or something. And for a little while, I thought maybe all 3 of you might actually break the female record.
Yeah, so when we crossed the line, all 3 of us broke it. And
Right.
then I pulled out first, and then so Julie and Sarah went on to extend it, and then Sarah, who turned out to be the assist, then officially set the new one.
Yeah, yeah, that's
So
right.
yeah, it was like an amazing day for us at the like breaking that, like all 3 of us breaking that record was just immense. It was amazing.
Yeah, unreal. Now, I also know that with the 12 backyard ultras in 12 months, you're also using it to raise funds and awareness for a charity called Mirkwood. So, can you tell me a little bit about that too?
Yeah, so it's the Mirkwood Home for Retired Sheep. So a fellow vegan runner that I know, Andy, he runs it, and we met through Mandy, who has also ran the tunnel.
Yeah.
We're like in this crazy tunnel circle.
Yeah.
um, and so I met Andy through Mandy, and I went down and I volunteered, and basically Andy, off his own back, takes in sheep that are no longer deemed fit for use by whoever's owning them. Whatever service they've provided for them is over, so they just get sent to the slaughterhouse and be done with it. Andy opens up his own home, and it's basically for them, the sheep, to come and live out the rest of their life because they're perfectly fit and healthy. So yeah, I was really taken in by just how lovely Andy was and what he was doing, and I wanted to help. Mandy does a lot of fundraising. She's amazing. She is a massive spokesperson for the sheep and for what Andy's doing. And I wanted to get involved. So I was like, right, the next challenge I do, I'm going to fundraise for Mirkwood. So that's how it came about.
Yeah, awesome. That's really nice. And by the sound of things, I mean, I know you're a plant based athlete, but by the sound of things, you like running has kind of inspired that.
Yeah. So it was meeting Mark on Chester 100 that he challenged me to go 2 weeks without dairy. So I started that, and I said, I'm not a middle ground person. So I was like, oh, I'm not going to go without dairy. I'm going to go without meat. And it was a really horrific time for me. Like my body, I did not know was like, I was addicted to dairy. And I had quite a tough 2 weeks coming off dairy. And I was home, like I was a single parent at the time. I had 2 little ones, and I was like cooking these plant-based meals for me and cooking my son his chicken nuggets because that was his favorite. And I remember he wasn't very old, like 6, 7, and he was like, "Mummy, why aren't you eating the chicken nuggets?" So I said to him, "Because I want to be healthier." And he's like, "Oh, so you don't want me to be healthier?" And I was like, "This is an awkward question." And so I homeschool both my children. So we started doing like an educational week of why do some people not eat meat? Why do some people eat meat? And we started to look into it. And within about a day, my son became vegan. and he was just like, we cannot eat meat anymore. He saw like the slaughterhouse documentaries and he was like, no, this isn't okay. And literally that was it. We changed overnight, and it was a process. I was like, I don't know what to cook, like beans on toast every night, kids.
Yeah.
But thankfully that is not life.
Yeah.
Thankfully. So yeah, it did. Running has changed everything. And with massively, going vegan, and like I try to be like a spokesperson when it comes to things like that, and just try to speak out and be an advocate for animals.
Mm. And as far as running backyard ultras go, like consistently fueling your body so you've got energy is really important. Um, is that easy being a vegan?
Yeah,
Yeah.
simpler. Yeah, like life is not hard. Following a vegan diet at all. And yeah, as since going vegan and plant-based, like my recovery, that is like the biggest thing I noticed. I never found I became a faster runner. Probably don't do the training to be a faster runner. I train to run backyards as slow as possible, but my recovery is immense. Like that is one thing that massively changed for me. And that, yeah, that is massively down to my plant-based diet without a doubt.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so Rasselbock early this year, it was 36 yards you ran, which was like an improvement of 6 yards from the year before. What kind of adjustments did you make to your strategy and plan to so you could make that improvement?
The one thing that I really struggled with in my first backyard was the night section. So when I did an A to B race, I always struggled in the night, and I'd be like, right, I'm going to take half an hour sleep here on this bench, wherever I was. You can't do that in a backyard. And I love my sleep. So that is one thing I really had to really train for. And it's like, how do you train for sleep deprivation? What I did mostly was sharpen my brain. I did as much boring running as possible so that my mind learned how to stay switched on when it wanted to switch off, which is what happens for me when I get tired. And my dad gave me some sessions in how to micro nap and how to do like enforced REM sleep to try to get like those vital sleeping moments, seconds, that just pushes you on to the next yard. So that's something that I really worked hard on.
Yeah. So you would actually practice sleep at home as part of your training.
Yeah. So my dad taught me this thing like about closing your eyes and like mimicking REM movement, and that can really help you go into sleep really quickly and get quality sleep. So yeah, I practice that lots. It's insane because like now when I'm on the yard and I get to the point where I need to sleep, I literally need 10 seconds. I'll sit in my chair 10 seconds and then it's like, right, what am I eating? What am I drinking? And that's all I need, just those microseconds. And like you can sleep for like 10 seconds and feel amazing
Yeah.
until the next yard.
Yeah. Yeah. And when did you start practicing sleep, and when did you actually start sleeping between yards at Backyard Ultras?
Um, I find for me, I start to really feel the need for sleep at about 3 a.m.
Yeah.
And when the sun actually comes up, and I think I'm going to feel better, I have a few really tough yards where my eyes will start rolling back into my head. That's the worst feeling in the world. I don't know if you've experienced that,
Yeah.
but it is not nice, is it? You like question your sanity.
Yeah.
Like, why am I out here? But when I did my first backyard ultra, I was so tired into that second night that I was falling down and smacking my knees, and that's what was waking me up. I was coming back to my crew with muddy knees and bleeding knees because I was just falling down into sleep. So we knew we had to change it. I think that's only happened to me once since. So I've really cracked that trying to keep awake and knowing what I need to do to engage my brain. I'll have a conversation with myself. I'm quite happy to do that on the yard. We're all mad out there anyway, aren't we? And just engage in the brain, and then having practice just going into sleep whenever I'm tired enough and controlling that has really worked for me.
Mm. Some runners will use caffeine as part of their race plan. Do you include caffeine as well?
Yes, but my only trouble with caffeine is I include caffeine 24/7 in my life.
Right.
So I have far too much caffeine every single day, which I have cut down on. But when my coach first started coaching me, I was drinking up to 20 to 25 cups of coffee a day. And when I did a race, he was like, I don't get why when we're introducing caffeine for you, it's not doing anything until I explained to him that I might be immune to it. So I
Yes.
have gradually over time come off it a bit, but it's not a massive kickstart for me. I
Mm.
try to abstain from it for as long as possible in a race. Um, but I find things like really like strong mints, like Fox's mints, sucking on them can help, or some airwaves, um, or a drink that I really don't like. So there's like a flavour of a drink and it's peppermint. It's disgusting. And if I drink it at night, I become so annoyed that I'm being made to drink it that it wakes me up. So
Right.
that's one of my go-tos.
Yeah. That's not a bad idea. Yeah. So how many of the 12 backyards are you into now? You must be like 8 or 9 backyard ultras into it, are you?
I've got one left.
Only one. Wow, that's
Yeah.
unreal. Can you give me a rundown of all the ones you've done so far?
I wrote this down. I knew you were going to ask me this. So I started at Rasselbock in March, and that's like my favorite course. It's my first one, and it was my PB course. So it's like a magical one for me. And then I did Maple Durham. That was a really pretty course. That was in Reading, and they had all like the red kites, like loads of red kites flying around above us. It was really really pretty. But I suffered from IT band issues on that. I've never in my life had IT band issues, and it just completely took me out. I can't remember what I did. Maybe 26 or 27. I'm not very good with stats in my memory. But yeah, I did enjoy that. It was a really lovely course and a really grassroots company, like really worth checking out. Really lovely. And then in June I did Longbridge. That's tough. So because I wear barefoot shoes, I feel everything. And Longbridge has a lot of like farmers tracks and a lot of really stony underfooting, like really sharp gravelly. And I think it's something like 750 foot of elevation each yard. It's really, really intense. It starts at night. So I think we had something like 15 hours of dark. So
Yeah.
by the time the light came up, there was hardly anyone left on the course. So it was really tough. And I remember I did 24 hours there, and I was so emotional when I reached those 24 hours. I just sobbed. I think I made the race director cry because I was so emotional. It just meant so much to me. My feet were bleeding through my shoes. That's how sore my feet were. It was like immense. And then in July, I did Facombe, which was my first win. And this was really like an unusual thing because it was the least amount of yards I had ever ran, and I won.
Yeah.
And I was so underwhelmed.
Right.
And I felt really awful because the assist had doubled his distance PB. This was his first ever race, and he was now the assist. And I don't think he even understood how immense that was. I think he had done something like 25 miles before, and I think maybe he did 16 yards, and that's incredible. And I was going, "You're amazing," but I don't think he realised how amazing he was.
Right.
But I felt stupid. I was like, I feel like I haven't even started, and I felt really underwhelmed for winning. But I felt like I was a dick for feeling that way, because this guy was amazing. It was such a strange mix of emotions, but that event changed me. Like, seeing an assist push himself to his limits and understanding what winning felt like definitely changed me and my approach to backyards.
Yeah.
And then we had Pig on the Hill, which is the Welsh one, so technically my local, the toughest one in the UK. Horrific, really, really tough. You want to be going there with fresh legs.
Yeah.
That was an extremely tough course. And then at the end of that month, I had Devon and Cornwall Backyard Ultra. And then September was back to Rasselbock, and it was the first of 5 in a row for me.
Right.
So in 10 weeks, I was going to do 5 backyard ultras. So I did Rasselbock and I did 25 yards there. And it was my dad also ran. So we ran 4 yards together. He did 4 yards. So it was our first race together. So that was really magical.
Yeah.
And then I did, I think I did the Grosvenor next, which was a backyard ultra in a prison. Right, it was like a disused prison, and we left the prison and we ran round it. And this was a really weird one because we got to, I think, 27 yards, and it was just me and one other guy left, and we'd been working together as a team and really helping each other, and we'd really bonded. And I felt like we could go on for hours and hours and just keep chatting, you know, well into the night. But it was the week of the satellite championships, and we had really bad weather.
Right.
And we were on that start line, I think, for the 26th or the 27th yard. And the race director said to us, it was this really weird feeling. He just went, "Are you both going out?" And I thought, what a strange question to ask us. And we were both like, yeah. And he says, "We're going to have to call it." And he pulled the plug because it was dangerous, basically. Yeah. The weather was awful. And that, again, such a weird feeling. Like there was no winner. We had no opportunity to try, that was a really weird experience. And then we went to London, Putney Backyard Ultra, which I was fortunate enough to be the last one standing. I think I won with 27 there. And I grew up in London, so we were just a couple of miles away from like my home ground. So that was really special to win that. It was really special. And we ran around like London, the city. So that was the first time I hadn't been on the trails for a backyard ultra.
Yeah.
And the night I never got any sleep issues because the city was alive. Yeah. Like I felt like I didn't even need a torch. It was insane. And there were bits on bridges where I was like dodging the crowd. It was insane. It was really cool, but completely insane.
Yeah.
And then it was Scotland, Goldsby, where we had the first ever for the UK, assist and last one standing, both female. So that was amazing to be part of that. So I was assist for that one. And then the one that I've just done in God's Own, where somehow I managed to get a PB of 40. And that's where we're up to now. Yeah,
awesome. So it sounds like you did over 24 yards in nearly all of them.
Yeah, so there was 3 I didn't, one which I won. Yeah. And then Pig on the Hill, which I have never come off a yard and had legs like jelly. Like I thought I was going to fall over. Like I didn't go back out, so I didn't get timed out, which was a goal for me on that one. But I had nothing left to give. Like that last yard I did, there were moments where I wasn't sure if I was going to fall over or not because my legs were broken. It was insane. Like we kept the toppest point, you're hitting a trig point, you're hitting the summit every point, and you're coming all the way back down. And we're not talking about open runnable trails, we're talking about gores and like just little paths and little ridge paths, you know, where your feet don't quite fit in. It was insane, absolutely insane, but beautiful. The views are amazing. And then at Devon and Cornwall, the same month, I just wasn't recovered, and I think I did 20 on that one.
Yeah. And how do you train how have you been training between these races? Are you doing much running in between them?
Yeah. So my coach has me doing a lot of low intensity, low mileage runs, but I run streak, so I run every single day. But yeah, I just really casual, you know, kind of like just backyard ultra pace running. And a lot of running to feel, a lot of running to how my body's feeling. And then also obviously the nasty like interval runs that you have to do to keep strong and things like that, but nothing heavy.
Yeah. And you mentioned you do a run streak. What's your streak at the moment?
Good question. I think it's over like 3.5 years now.
Oh, wow. So That would be close over 1,000 days then.
Oh yeah, yeah. I remember when I hit the 1,000 days, and that. Oh, I tell you what, I hit the 1,000 days on when I was running my first of the 12.
Awesome. Awesome. So that would be good on the backyard ultras where like you go past midnight and just run a few more yards and you don't have to run again all that day.
Yeah, that's always like this little bit of information my dad feeds me because my dad always crews for me. And if I'm a bit like, oh, I can't be bothered, he goes, but you don't want to have to go out tomorrow for your run streak, do you? So you best keep going.
Yeah. Um, and what about strength work? Do you do any like weights or any cross training, any cycling or anything like that?
No, but don't tell anyone.
Uh,
So I have maybe a week ago started doing some strength training, and that is only because I now have a teenage son who has discovered weights, and I make him do a bit of running with me. So all of a sudden now, mum's got to do a bit of weight training, and I take him to. He goes to like a PT session twice a month to make sure he's lifting properly and correctly. And yeah, I'm going to start using the gym there because I know it's important, but I just love running. That's all I want to do.
yeah, yeah. Do you think your son might do a backyard ultra sometime soon?
I don't know. He had a run streak. He had a 2-year run streak with me, and he only lost it because he was extremely poorly. He got an infection, and he literally was bedridden. And then he sort of discovered weights, and that has become his thing, which is really nice because I loved running with him, but that was my thing that he was joining me on. And like we did the run streak after sort of like we came out of COVID, and I was like trying to encourage him to go back outside because he had a bit of anxiety about going outside. So we started a run streak together, which really helped. Now he's discovered his own thing, but he does do some running with me still. He'll like do some park runs with me and stuff. So maybe, you never know.
Yeah, yeah, cool. Now, this most recent backyard ultra, where you were the one like you were the last one standing with 40 yards. Like, did you feel like you had a lot left in the tank, or have you just kept on going and going? Do you think?
Yeah, I felt when I finished like really disappointed. I wanted to go on forever. But that's the thing about backyards, isn't it? You can have a yard where you feel like you can go on forever, but you don't know what the next yard is going to bring. It's such an unknown. So yeah, I had that. It was an amazing backyard because I think it was if I'm right, I think the last 7 people that were in it all got PBs.
Yeah.
And I was like holding out for my PB because obviously out of everyone, I had to run the furthest to get a PB. And I didn't know if anyone was going to keep running so I could get this PB. And at one point there was 5 of us. And I was like, I think it was yard 32 or 33. And I'm sure there was like 5 of us. And then all of a sudden there was 2 of us just like that. And I was like, oh, I'm not going to get my PB. And I had like this little panic. But Scott, who was assist, was still looking really strong. And he was hungry for the win. I could see it in him. So we ran like a lot of yards together, and he was like, I'll get you to your PB. I was like, yes. I was so excited. And yeah, we got to my PB, and then we did the next yard together, and we set the new course record. So that was exciting as well. And then he wanted to run by himself. So we kind of went our own ways. And then it only went on for another 2 more yards, unfortunately. But I was thinking, right, get to 40, what's next? 48 is next. And I was thinking about, right, I have this little process in my head. So I'm like, this is what I'm going to do for the first. And then for the second, I'll do this. So I have like this little lineup of things that are going to keep me busy. And then all of a sudden, because there was a bike behind us in the night keeping us safe and making sure we hit the points we're meant to hit maybe. And he just went, that's it, Vic, you're on your own now. And I felt like this weird half of me was like, oh, thank God I can finish and go to bed and get a shower because I feel gross. And then this other half of me was like, but I want to run all night.
Yeah.
And you know, like when you've come so far, the thought of, oh, damn, I'm going to have to do all of this again at some point to go further is the worst feeling in the world, isn't it? Like you just want to do it right now and be done with it. But yeah, I think to myself, if I can do 40 after 5 in a row, like so close together and hitting 25 plus every single time, like 2 weeks before my 40, I'd done 30. So yeah, on fresh legs, like I would love to see what I can do.
Yeah, unreal. So you've done 11 now. When's your 12th?
It's in January, so I finish again back at Longbridge, starting at night, so into the dark. And yeah, that will be the last of the 12, which will be insane.
Yeah, unreal. So I guess when a good question would be like, you're obviously really mentally tough. Like when you're running these backyard ultras and you are going through a low point or something's hard, what kind of mantras or what do you think about to keep you going?
I think I always think about time, and I think that time is my ally. And if nothing else, just wait it out. Time will keep moving, and all I have to do is pass through it. If I stop, time is going to carry on, and all those other runners are going to carry on. I just need to stay in the time. And I keep reminding myself time is my friend, time is my ally, just wait it out. And that really helps me keep moving forward.
Yeah, unreal. That's a good one. Yeah, I think of something similar as well. I kind of think to myself like the only thing that will feel worse than keeping on going is if I stop, and that's kind of a similar thing, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Um, do you pay attention to the number of loops you're up to while you're in the race, or do you kind of block that out as well?
Yeah, so I restart my watch every single yard.
Yeah.
So my eyes only ever look at a watch that have done less than 1 hour of running, less than 4.16 miles. I never in my head run more than that. And there's been times on a yard, when you're about to hit milestones and people are like, oh, this is the, and I'm like, no, don't want to know, don't listen. Because to me, I'm only running 4.16 miles. And
Yeah.
that really helps me. That really keeps me focused and sharp.
Yeah. Now the 36 yards you ran at Rasselbock, it wasn't. It almost qualified. It was almost enough to qualify you for the UK team that ran in October. Was that something that you were aiming for?
Yeah, when I started the 12, I really wanted to run for the championships.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if doubt got to me or well, circumstance didn't allow me anyway. I just didn't make the team. But I realised I think it was that sort of low in the middle that I had when I missed out on hitting 24 a few times that I thought about it and I was thinking if I am chosen for the team, I've got to run my best and is my best possible on such tired legs. And that really got inside my head.
Yeah.
If I'd been chosen for the team, I probably would have gone. I'm not going to lie. I would have been super excited. But there was also like a massive part of me that was relieved that I didn't have to rock up tired and probably with everyone wondering like, she ran 2 weeks ago. Like, how is she going to run today? So
Yeah.
that was very much in my head. I do not like pressure. I like to just run because I love it. And I always want to do well, don't get me wrong, but that was something that I thought about and I was like, but yeah, like next year I've already been picked for the Welsh team for the Four Nations. So and then who knows what will happen for the year after that. If I'll have the opportunity to run for the championship satellites, that would be pretty cool.
Okay, so over there you've got like a Four Nations kind of backyard ultra, do you?
Yes, we do. Yeah. So we have like Wales, Scotland, Ireland, and England.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, that would be really cool. That's in July at the Highlander.
Oh, that would be really good. Yeah. And how many runners are involved in that?
I think it's 12 per team. I am literally the most unknowledgeable person when it comes to things. I am very much like, oh, something's happening tomorrow. I'll pack my bags.
Yeah,
That is very me.
yeah, yeah.
But I believe it's 12 per team. And I think, don't quote me on this, but I think you should never quote me on anything. I'm warning you now. But I think that they're meant to have two females per team minimum.
Okay.
So, but I think that's not going to be an issue because I know Scotland has some very strong female runners, as does England. Um, I'm not very knowledgeable on the Welsh runners because I've not met many Welsh backyard ultra runners, so that'll be interesting. I'm really looking forward to meeting the team and hopefully doing some training with them. But I don't know how it all works. I'm waiting to hear.
Yeah, yeah, no worries. That sounds really good. So you've almost done your 12 in 12 months. Are you still enjoying the backyard ultra format, or are you sick of it?
Yeah, no, I am. So I thought I would be super, super, super sick of it. And I had said, right, when I've done the 12, I'm going to plan some different things for next year. And I have. I've got some really different things happening next year. However, backyard ultras have still managed to creep into the mix. So yeah, I'm not sick of it. And I do love it. And I think I've definitely found my strength. Um, I don't enjoy running fast. I enjoy running forever. And backyard ultras really just work for me. The format, I feel like I've got found myself a really good place and way to do it.
Yeah.
But it will be nice also doing different things and having a different training block. I'm looking forward to that as well.
Yeah. So running backyard ultras has forced me to dig deep into myself during races, and it's helped me learn a little bit about myself, like during the ups and downs of these races. Or what have you learned about yourself through running backyard ultras?
It has taken me a really long time to not allow a previous event to define me as a runner. And I think backyard ultras have really helped me overcome that. I've learned that every yard comes with circumstance. Each yard reflects not just how you feel in that moment, but the moments that led up to it. And I always remind myself, and I've learned never to let a bad yard take away my next yard, and never to let a good yard presume my next yard. So
Mm.
for me, I think that's the biggest thing that I've learned from it is stay in this moment. Like I have felt it turning up to backyards and people are like, oh, she's done 36, so she's going to do that today. That's not how it goes.
Yeah.
Every event is circumstance and what happened to you yesterday or last week. And each yard is in that moment. And I've really learned from that because there were the events that I didn't hit my 24 hours, which I was gutted about. But I picked myself up and I got back to that point because I didn't let the last event define me as the runner that I was on that day. So I
Mm.
think that's been a massive learning curve for me.
Yeah, unreal. What would you say? I mean, we learn so much in these backyard ultras, and a lot of the learning is through mistakes. So, what would you say is the biggest mistake you've ever made in a backyard ultra?
The biggest mistake I've ever made in a backyard ultra was setting a goal instead of milestones. So for that first backyard ultra in March, I was capable of so much more, but I set a goal. And the
Yeah,
minute I hit it, I was done.
yeah,
Now I set milestones. And when I hit that milestone, I go to the next milestone. And I never have a goal. I always just have milestone and milestone and milestone. And they're all little and I run over them every single backyard. So yeah, that's something I fixed really quickly.
yeah, yeah, very good. Now, one of the backyard ultras over there that I don't think you've done is Suffolk, and that's a pretty big one. Do you have any plans on going to Suffolk next year?
No,
Fair enough.
I really love sort of like smaller grassroots events. And
Yeah,
I hear that Suffolk is allowing 500 runners or 500 signups.
yeah,
And that's just a stampede. Like, I have palpitations thinking about all those people.
yeah.
I'm socially anxious. So, yeah, no, that's not for me.
Yeah, fair enough. Now, I mean, I reckon your best backyard ultra results are definitely in front of you, and I'm pretty sure that you agree. Is there an area of backyard ultra racing you've identified where you feel you have the most room for improvement?
So I have a running and a movement and technique coach who has suggested to me that I use a lot of my energy like with my over excitement of interaction with other people.
Right.
So he has like said to me, right, we need to focus on harnessing this energy, Victoria. And I've done a few backyards, maybe one, where I've worked on that. And I've tried not to speak to people, but it's so horrible, like running around and just, like I'm not taking part in this conversation or I'm
Yes.
not learning about this person. That is not me.
Yeah.
So an area that I have to improve on is harnessing my excitement for
Mm.
a race and being in that environment. But will I? Probably not. I think it's just me as a person.
Yes. Yeah, cool. Um, so over these past 12 months since you've done your first backyard ultra, what have you added to your race kit and what are some items that you can't do a backyard ultra without?
So I have added to my race kit a pair of my biggest, fluffiest socks.
Yeah.
So like those fluffy, like slipper socks that do not breathe that you should not run in.
Right.
When I'm at my point where I'm like, oh, I need some comfort, I put on fluffy socks, and I don't care that my feet sweat. They just feel so soft and fluffy and amazing, and I love them. So fluffy socks that should not be ran in is my go-to comfort.
Yeah. Unreal. Um, so you've mentioned a few people who have been quite influential with your running journey. Is there one particular person who's had more influence on you as a runner than anyone else?
Yeah, I guess it would have to be my running coach, Shiro Bree. So yeah, like he is without a doubt my biggest influence when it comes to running. And I think as a female athlete, it's been invaluable to work with a coach who has empowered me and prepared me to perform, in events that are they're not ordinary. So yeah, he's played a crucial role, not in just myself as a runner and my physical performance, but also in my self confidence as an athlete. I think without a doubt, when I question my abilities, like today, I had a meltdown about going for a 10-mile training run, which is insane. And I
Oh,
was like, I messaged him, I'm like, no, training's off, it's not going to happen, coach.
yeah,
It's always his influence that pushes me forward and helps me achieve my goals.
yeah, very good. Now, I like to ask my guests, Vic, for their three backyard ultra tips. What would your three backyard ultra tips be?
So my first one would definitely be about time. So there's a bit of a saying, I'm sure you've heard it yourself or discussed it in the Backyard Ultra, that if you start coming in within that 3 minute whistle, you're in the danger zone. I say balls to that, right? I defy that. Anyone who has never run a Backyard Ultra before or has run a Backyard Ultra, I would definitely recommend trying this simple exercise. Set a stopwatch and sit down in front of it and set it for 3 minutes and understand exactly how long 3 minutes are. It's a really long amount of time, and you will sit there so bored when there's just 2 minutes left, and you will be looking around the room in the last minute.
Yeah,
Now set it again and see what you can do in 3 minutes. Can you change your socks? Can you mix up a sports drink? Can you put chafing in an odd area? Not chafing, chafing cream. Don't put chafing anywhere. But understand what 3 minutes feels like and understand what 2 minutes feels like, and then understand what 1 minute feels like, and use those minutes to get back out there and stay in the game.
yeah, awesome.
And then secondly, nutrition, like fueling. We all know how to do it, but it gets so many of us, doesn't it, out on the long run. Someone told me at a backyard, you cannot add fuel to a dead fire. And that has stuck with me. Like, if you let your fire burn out, you're in major trouble. Like, you can't run off anyone else's fire. So you have to keep putting fuel on that fire well before it even starts to simmer. Yeah, just find what works for you and use it. Like, I know what works for me, and I buy it in ton loads and I take it all with me.
Yeah,
And you'll probably find that you don't use half of it, But if it's not there, you've got no chance of moving forward. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
And I think my third one is to just remember that everybody has a turn back moment. So you have a moment where you can go forward or you can give up. And if you give up, the guarantee is it will never happen. The only way that possibility remains that it can happen is if you do not give up. You have to put your feet in that starting pen on that start line to keep possibility there. So keep getting to that start line, keep making the possible happen.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I guess the very last question I've got, are you going to do the tunnel next year? You
Yeah,
are.
it's booked. It's happening. It's in March.
Yeah, unreal. Unreal. Okay, cool. Hey, well, look, thanks so much for coming on. I've really loved listening to and chatting with you. I reckon everyone who listens to this will love it as well.
Oh, thank you.